Silent Hill 2 Remake, Cam Hack, Day 11. We've just made it to Brookhaven. We're 11 days into this playthrough. 11 streams deep. And we've only just now made it to Brookhaven. Which is like maybe a third of the way through the game. If we're being somewhat generous. We still have so much more. But let's start going through and looking at everything that we can that is around Brookhaven Hospital. See all the keys and key rings. We'll be opening up this case to access here in a bit. And go outside at this point, now that we are in Brookhaven and the doors are closed. There is nothing else rendered outside anymore, which is kind of surprising considering when we were outside, before everything was loaded in, there was still a lot of the hospital actually rendered. Also, here's how they get the lighting effect. It's just some big glowing panels outside of the windows with trees and stuff in front. Sunset gives End of Small Sanctuary vibes. It definitely does. Gives that beginning of Silent Hill 3 feel to it. Got another save point here. I love looking at the save points. We did a look at the one in Pete's Bolorama as well. Just seeing the texture of it actually moving and swirling around. Cool detail that can be easy to miss. What computers are those? Does Brookhaven run on Commodores? We've seen a few of these computer models in other places around the town. An Eggy working HS stat. Which is kind of interesting compared to Brookhaven in the original. Homework. Floppy drive with stuff on it crossed out. Man. I hate to say how old... I'm old enough to have had computer classes where we turned in homework on floppy disks. What's interesting is I feel like what Bloober Team did for a lot of these assets, I think they just sourced a bunch of vintage computers and typewriters and various things from the 70s, 80s, and 90s and photo scanned them in. Your text here. They forgot to fill out some custom text for some of these things. There's also a lot of placeholder text in some of these assets, but yeah, I feel like they just sourced a lot of legitimate props and things, vintage equipment and stuff, and then just photo scanned it all in to really get things looking authentic. and then just sort of modify them slightly, take away brand names and certain specification things. Got a dog. Picture of a dog. Lead nurse is Linda Baker. Extension something 12. The link nurse, Anna Spencer. Extension something something. Lodge, extension 002. Supposed to say please, but it's Pealse. Peals. Do not hesitate to contact with any questions you might have, you may have. Bezitate. Peals do not bezitate. Contact information. Again, Bloober is a Polish studio. A lot of the people working on these assets, English is likely not their primary native language. Eyeball? Yeah, we've seen this actually. It's a close-up of one of the posters that we've seen around town that's got the that design to it. That a bunch of pyramid heads? Seeing people with cone-shaped heads. Large pyramids. Bunch of nurses. A lot of these photos and things are real photos that have been sourced from like the Library of Congress and various other public domain sources. Just like real vintage photos and images and things that they scanned in and like slightly edited. Whose eyeball, though? I don't think it's James. That beautiful reflection of the environment in his eye. All the little micro movements and things as well. Those little subtle movements of the eye darting around. Like, you're never really going to look at the characters this close. That's a really nice touch. Good detail. And Maria. Doesn't look like her eye. Ooh, the frame rate. Frame rate's a little choppy when we get in super close like that. But same thing. Also, you can see one of the details I was talking about in some previous parts where there is like dynamic reflections on the character's eyeballs, and it will reflect certain things in the environments and like light sources, but they do not reflect other character models or interactable items as a way to like simplify the reflections for the sake of resources and optimization. But neat detail. Certificate of attendance that certifies that Nolan Eigenberg, PhD, participated in the 1985 annual meeting of the American Medical Association. in San Francisco, California, May 18th, 21st, 1985. Education and research. Certificate of accreditation. Anthony Johnson, Executive Committee of something, on the recommendation of the July, appointed a something, is pleased to declare such and such as an accredited member of the blank can see these were probably real certificates and things that they scanned in and then like edited out a lot of the specific details, put in their own like fictional names, and just kind of blanked out other things, other elements of it. Try and see some of these books, but looks like a lot of the same books and things that we've seen in other parts of the environment. We've seen these medical dictionaries everywhere. I'm sure we're going to see the radiology book and medical ethics book, and like all of those that we've seen in some other spots. Yeah, there's the radiology book. So, a lot of the same things. What's in our filing cabinets? Important. Medication bills. Books and stationery. And also important. Insides of the drawers and everything are rendered. Do you have anything written on the other floppies in the... No, actually, no other floppies in there, just the little dividers. August medical expenses. Bills payable. 305, important. 38.3, important. Gee, I wonder if they ever mix up important things. Medication bills, statements, books and stationery. Another 305. Yeah, just kind of reused labels. January invoices, doctor bills, August medical expenses. I remember that some people thought during the jail scene, James's eye reflecting only the chair and not Maria was an intended detail to show that James isn't looking at any real person. I am some people. Yep, that is, or that was something posted on Twitter and the Silent Hill subreddit by somebody, another fan that we mentioned in some previous parts of this playthrough, Rachel Ashman. And that's why it's always important to sort of try to detach yourself from obsessive over analyzing when it comes to these games. As somebody who used to be an obsessive over analyzer and has very much changed my mindset over the years on how I interpret information and things in the games, like, it's clear that Rachel Ashman wanted to present it as this very, like, oh, Bloober made this super intentional detail. Maria doesn't reflect in James's eyes to show that she's not real type of statement, which in terms of her getting followers on Twitter and upvotes on Reddit, she got a lot of them. But in terms of, it's deceptive in how she presents that information. It is purposefully deceptive because anybody, like, if I came across that detail and I wanted to present that information, you would just test it. You would just look at different character models. Somebody other than Maria, somebody other than James. When James is in the theater, does he reflect in Eddie's eyes? You know, you would compare it to other aspects of the game and see if it is a result of just how the game is programmed and how the visuals are designed to work from a just from a that sort of standpoint, like an optimization standpoint. But hey, that doesn't get you as many upvotes. That doesn't get you as many Twitter followers. So there are a lot of fans like that. She's not the only one who, whether intentionally or unintentionally, just don't truthfully present things, their findings, in like a more open and objective way. They're more interested in gaining followers and getting popular rather than sharing information for the sake of the information. Seen this photo in a couple other places. The much older car model, but that's definitely the observation deck from the start of the game. Of course, the cute dog. Find peace and happiness. I think it's okay to accept it into your headcanon. If it was somebody just accepting it as their personal headcanon, that's totally fine. But if you are presenting your headcanon as fact, specifically to get recognition for it, and then get really upset when people challenge it, then that's a whole nother issue. And that is where the problem is. Everyone is entitled to have their own headcanon, but if you're presenting it as fact just for the sake of like popularity, or to get a reaction from people in the fandom, like that's not cool. It's not cool. New way in medicine. Parts 2. Pretty sure we saw this book in some other spots. People are a bit cruel to her. That is also not okay. Like, I'm not trying to insinuate that like you should be rude to her or you know, mean to her in any way because of those things. And again, as a fan, I respect a lot of the stuff that she finds because it is genuinely interesting. I just don't like the aspect of how she presents her findings, how defensive she gets over presenting her headcanons as fact. And this goes for not just Rachel Ashman, but many fans in the Silent Hill fandom do the same thing. You shouldn't attack them for that sort of stuff. But when something is disingenuous and not factually correct, such as the eye reflection thing, that should be called out. because otherwise misinformation spreads. And as somebody who really appreciates accurate information when it comes to researching these things, that type of misinformation does much more harm than good in these types of communities. That's why there is still a large portion of the fan base that thinks that the games were based on Centralia and that there's ash falling in Silent Hill 1 and stuff like that, is because of lazy content creators who knowingly spread that misinformation because they know it gets clicks and views and everything else. So that's the type of stuff that is a real pet peeve of mine. That there are so many fans who would put in so much effort into finding interesting details and researching these games, and then present their findings in such a disingenuous way. But yeah. Same thing for like wanting credit. Like that came up in one of our previous playthroughs. For like finding Easter eggs and sharing information about these games, details and stuff that you found, and then wanting to be credited anytime somebody mentions it or shares it. It's like, you didn't make the game. You didn't make the asset. If you're going to credit somebody, credit the Bloober team devs who took the time to like make these things and knowingly, intentionally put them there, knowing that fans would look at everything as closely as like I'm doing now. But yeah, it's like you're not discovering a new planet. You're not finding a new element on the periodic table. You're finding an asset or a detail in a video game that somebody spent time and effort to make and put there. Like, you can't be upset when people share that. That's not something you get credit for, unfortunately. The only reason why not getting credited for that sort of thing would upset people and fans like Ashman is because they feel it takes away from their popularity. Because at the end of the day, that is what they want. They feel like they get less followers and less upvotes and stuff if people repost their findings without crediting them. So that should not be your main motivation, in my opinion, if as a fan and as a researcher of these games. E-locker note. And Maria says, Due to repeated instances of keys getting misplaced from this point forward, they are to be returned to the locker at the end of every shift. All staff are required to memorize the padlock combination and are not to disclose it to anyone but authorized personnel under any circumstances. In case of any problems, report to the head nurse in examination room 3. She says, and starts looking at this particular image. So this is the Carl Jung, I forget what exactly the image is called. Theory of personality, or the self, the ego, which Carl Jung's philosophical writings were definitely something that was used as inspiration and influence on certain aspects of the original game, as well as the remake, a lot more heavily referenced here in the remake than in the original games, but still some interesting concepts and ideas from a philosophical and psychological standpoint behind like your sense of self, and your consciousness. But one of the reasons why Maria specifically takes interest in this and draws player attention towards it is because that is James. Let's see if we can line up our camera here. Post Up 83, thank you so much for that brand new Prime sub. But if you look at the shape of the jaw, the shape of the neck, the ear placement, the shape of the nose ridge, the brow ridge, that is James's profile, which is why Maria sort of takes a moment and focuses on it, says, kind of draws the player attention to look at it a little closer. That is why. So not only are we seeing this diagram that's supposed to kind of be indicative of or invoking the idea of Carl Jung's philosophies and sense of self and consciousness and all of that, but we're literally seeing James as the example. This whole game is kind of a journey into his subconscious, his self, his inner mind being projected outward into reality. Void of Red, welcome back. Thank you so much for the 19 months and the 6 months in advance. Really love your lore dives. Thank you, Void. I'm glad you're still here, still enjoying us, and having a good time with the streams and the lore dives. Thank you so much for the resub. Luke Roberts mocap that drawing. I mean, not exactly mocap, but technically, that is Luke. Excuse me. The director requested the files of the 3 crucial patients. You know which ones. Could you bring them to his office? This is another aspect from the original game that they sort of changed up to be a bit more ambiguous for the remake. So in the original Silent Hill 2, there are 3 patients that have specific files that you find about them. But they're given names. Let me see if I can find my notes on them really quickly. Because, like, Joseph Barkin is the main one that I always remember because he's the main one that you interact with. Not directly, but the box with 4 locks. In the original games, Brookhaven, you have to find 2 keys. You have to get 2 codes. One of them is like a bloody number written on a wall. And they write about patient files about Joseph Barkin, where he had a sense of guilt after the death of his daughter. He blamed himself and was obsessed over it, trapped in his own delusional world after that. The hospital director in the original Silent Hill 2 writes about having to drag him painfully out of his delusion into reality, despite him being happy in his delusion. So these sort of aspects about Joseph Barkin are meant to be parallels to James Sunderland. So there are other patients. You get let's see, Jack Davis and Joshua Lewis, who are the other two. Um, the idea that each of those patients and the files you find about them, their symptoms and the patients themselves are meant to be parallels to James, Eddie, and Angela. Now, for the remake, they never give us names for the patients, which has led to a lot of, I think, fans reading the notes about the patients a little bit too literally, where they assume that James himself was a mental patient, or that Eddie and Angela were mental patients in Brookhaven. But like, Eddie's never been here before. He's a runaway who's come to the town for the first time. James wasn't a patient here. He was here once for vacation. Mary got sick. They went home. And they didn't return. James didn't return until the events of this game. So like, those aspects are meant to be, I think, not literal. They're meant to be parallels to our characters, just the same way as they were in the original. But Bloober Team, they did an interview. Some members of Bloober Team did an interview where they mentioned they wanted to include as many references and nods towards fan theories, not just official story and canon, but also fan theories that have existed since the original game. They wanted to include a lot of those theories, even ones that Bloober Team themselves disagreed with. They wanted to include them in the remake, at least ambiguously. So I feel that there was a common theory back then where people analyzed those three patients and thought of it in a more literal sense, of them being James, Angela, and Eddie, or that they are all aspects of James himself. But again, I feel like it's a nod to the fan theory and not meant to be taken at face value. What on earth does Luke Roberts voicing the director imply? And it's not just Luke Roberts either. We're playing in the Japanese dub. So the Japanese actor who's playing James also voices the hospital director. So again, in the original Silent Hill 2, you start having notes become more and more specific to James. Things that you find that are supposed to be from the hospital director, telling you about like the letter and the wrench, telling James that, you know, the truth can only be found by marching forward, but you might be going to a different place than Mary. The message in Bar Neely's after Brookhaven. All of those aspects in the original game where it seems like the town is kind of communicating with James directly. They're calling him out by name. So to me, I always interpreted that as just being what it always is. There is no sentience to the town, in my opinion. There is just a reflection of what is in the character's own mind. James is aware of what he's done. He has guilt. He has hatred towards himself. He has suicidal tendencies. He doesn't think that he would go to heaven for doing something so horrible as killing Mary. He doesn't justify it in any way. It is his own subconscious talking to him through those notes. It's not like the director commenting on it directly. It's not James was literally the hospital director. I think it's just supposed to be James's subconscious is creating these notes. It's creating these references as a means to force James to sort of more directly think about and consider what he's done, to break out of his delusion. But that's my interpretation of it. A lot of that is also going to be very much influenced by the original game. which the remake is not. Like, this follows the main story, but it doesn't portray everything in the same way. They kind of, Bloober Team has their own interpretations of those elements of the original and wanted to portray them in their own way. They also, like I said, wanted to reference other fan theories and aspects like that. So a lot of things I think are there because, one, it's creepy. Like, it's creepy knowing that the hospital director's voice sounds familiar because it is James. And it makes you question things, because anytime you have to question something in a psychological horror game, that is the fear of the unknown creeping in. It adds mystery and intrigue. Wanted to see if there was anything hiding behind the mirror. You've seen an instance of that before. But yeah, I think a lot of things are just there because it's creepy and left fairly ambiguous to keep players discussing, keep the discussion up. It keeps the game in fans' minds a lot more than just directly answering one way or the other, or confirming or denying theories from 20 years ago. Like, they tried to kind of cover all bases without being too disrespectful to, like, the original developer's intentions. Which is why there's a lot of things that are hinted at, but not, like, explicitly confirmed or denied. Like loop theory, there's a lot of stuff that hints at it, but nothing directly saying that it's true or false. It was a popular theory for the original game. It's a popular theory once again. And that's exactly what Bloober Team wants. They don't want to just answer that. But the same thing goes for people who theorize that Angela and Eddie and Laura are not real. They're aspects of James and part of his subconscious, and that's why the patients, you know, have similar symptoms and all these treatments and things. Even though there is developer commentary, like Masahiro Ito specifically saying Eddie, Angela, and James are real, Laura is real, Maria is the only, like, intended manifested character that is not real from the developer standpoint. But a lot of fans don't like that answer and have their own headcanons, and Bloober Team wanted to respect those fans, even if they don't necessarily agree. So they leave a lot of that stuff ambiguous. Hey, Pyramid Builder. Nurses in training. These will actually be used for a puzzle to solve that combination we need. And again, I think this is one of the images that was taken from the Library of Congress. It was a public domain image. An actual vintage photo of nurses that Bloober Team took and edited the faces and everything out of. Dr. Hughes and Dr. Atkinson in the garden. Yeah, pretty much all these photos. These are actual vintage photos, just modified and edited. Something that Bloober Team is well accustomed to doing. They've been kind of utilizing that same design philosophy ever since the first Layers of Fear, using actual photos and artwork throughout history, just edited to be creepy. Effective immediately to our visitors. If you are visiting between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m., please be prepared to present valid identification. Not visitors, visitores. Rachel's at 100,000 scam points, 0.10% of the way to choosing a game for Nub. Would choose Ride to Hell Retribution. Yeah. I was going to say, if Rachel's going to suggest anything for me... Rachel, by the way, streams and plays a lot of bad games just for her own enjoyment, not even just for the sake of streams and stuff. She just likes playing bad games. So I figured if she's going to suggest anything for me, it's going to be stuff like Ride to Hell Retribution, or Life of Black Tiger, or Quiet Man. Add to proper hygiene. Ask nurses for free copy. Polyvertanum AB. A lot of these. Try to look up just to make sure. Yeah, this one I found in the pharmacy during an earlier part of this playthrough. We looked it up. I looked it up, and it's just got polio references, not actually relating to that term directly. Paleville Sanitarium. We found this stuff in the pharmacy as well. References to the other hospitals in Silent Hill. The Paleville Sanitarium. So the sanitarium, which is in Silent Hill Origins, they even mention here the treatment of disease, but scientific dietetics, which you can see like hydrotherapy, electricity. Those were both specific treatments that are discussed in information you find in Silent Hill Origins in the sanitarium. So, little references to Silent Hill Origins. Think about your future, James. Subconscious messaging projected into reality. Vintage medical drawings and photos. Demonstrations. He's like bandaging up somebody's head. Woman holding a baby. Grand Market. Advertisement for pound cake. Yeah, most likely a reference for lobotomies. We're going to see a lot of stuff like that. okay with Origins references. I like cherry picking cool things from each game and keeping them, ignoring the rest. Makes a more fascinating experience. That's the thing. They don't reference a whole lot of the other games in like really direct ways that would affect like the story, the main plot, and there's not like things like that. But hidden in these very subtle environmental details, we've found lots of references to the other games in the series. I think that's a fun way to go about it. Just to acknowledge those games without sort of letting them taint how the story of this game is portrayed. ADF remote control unit. Video cassette recorder. We've got our VCR and our remote and some tapes. Hey, it's Crusher Dan again. So we saw these same tapes in the house where you first pick up the radio. So that was like a very early part of this Cam Hack series. When we picked up the radio, that house had VHS tapes. So we've got Crusher Dan, copyright 1999. So the reason this says copyright 1999 is because this is a Silent Hill 1 reference. Let me see if I have that here, because I know I shared it in like Discord and stuff not too long ago. Do I have the movie theater? I know I've got it saved on my computer somewhere. I really need to organize things better. But in Silent Hill 1, there is a theater in the town. And if you look at the movies that are being advertised at the Silent Hill 1 theater, it's two movies that you can see called Shoot and called Crusher Dan. And the poster for Shoot is Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's slightly altered to take away Indiana Jones's whip and give him a gun. And Crusher Dan is Die Hard 2, slightly edited to give Bruce Willis a little bit more hair. So it's like a mock-up thing, but it's a Silent Hill 1 reference. Man, what did I do? Here it is. So that is the Silent Hill 1 reference. On the top there of the image, those are the billboards on the Silent Hill Theater that you can find in Silent Hill 1. So that's Shoot and Crusher Dan, with the comparison images of Raiders of the Lost Ark and Die Hard 2. So that was in Silent Hill 1 that came out in 1999. So now in Silent Hill 2 Remake, to reference that, Bloober Team put in VHS copies of Crusher Dan, copyright 1999, and they also have Shoot, which might be this other tape. Because we did find a copy of Shoot Again, in that room or that house where you first pick up the radio. Yeah, you can't get away with this kind of stuff in games anymore. Which Bloober Team was well aware of. They couldn't recreate those posters. That would be like a big legal issue these days. But back in 1999, Team Silent didn't give a fuck. They knew they could get away with that kind of stuff. So instead, we get these sort of generic looking covers, these VHS tapes for Shoot and Crusher Dan. Of course, I'm having a hard time with the camera. Well, can't get a good shot of the other one, but we found these VHS tapes, these references before. Crusher Dan and Shoot. But really cool reference. Again, there's a lot of people, a lot of fans of Silent Hill 1 who probably don't even know about that movie theater Easter egg. But Bloober Team, they knew it. They did their research. They were aware. And they even included these little references. Oh, there's Shoot. It's sitting on top. Also copyright 1999. Again, when Silent Hill 1 came out. I think that's also the appropriate ratings for Raiders of the Lost Ark and Die Hard 2. Yep. Yeah, so Raiders, when it was first released, it was only PG because PG-13 was not a thing yet. And by the time Die Hard 2 was released, it was rated R. So that's why we've got Shoot, rated PG, and Crusher Dan, 18 and up. Wonderful Easter egg. That was one of my favorite ones that we've found so far. Another clock, 10 past 9 and 15 seconds. Same car calendar that we've seen in some other places, the November 1983 calendar. Again, we see all sorts of references to years and dates and times all throughout this game. Nothing consistent to suggest anything other than like a vague time period. Very much like the original. No specific dates or timelines given to these games. There's fan-made timelines that try to make assumptions based on when particular gun models and car models and things like that existed, but nothing ever official from developers of like, here is the year where this game takes place. Something they, even in interviews with like Keiichiro Toyama, who directed Silent Hill 1, specifically said we didn't want to give Silent Hill like a specific time or place. They wanted to make it vague. Emergency evacuation. Oh, this is the one that we read. This was the one that was in Heaven's Knight behind the counter. Egyoa Jushi. Welcome. Was watching part 2 on YouTube. Mentioned how you've been streaming on Twitch for 10 years. Decided to check it out, and here you are. Welcome. You are now part of part 11. So when you watch all the other parts and get to this part, you'll make your cameo. Yeah, welcome to the live stream. One visitor at a time and maximum 2 visitors per day. Visits limited to 2 hours per day between 2 p.m. and p.m. Okay. Social distancing at the bedside. Social distancing. I mean, even for hospitals and stuff, I feel like that didn't really start being a term until post-COVID. Do not visit if you are unwell. Do not visit if you have been overseas in the last 14 days. All these restrictions can be challenging. For exceptional circumstances, we encourage families to speak to the nurse in charge before arriving at further advice. Workplace safety in hospital. Hospital unique risks. Hospital workers lift, reposition, and transfer patients who have limited mobility, which can pose challenges for safe handling. Workers may be near potentially contagious patients and sharp devices contaminated with pathogens. Hospitals serve patients with physical and mental health challenges which increase of violent outbursts. Hospital workers' injuries. Injuries by patients, furnitures, ground surfaces, containers, gas pipes, others. Injuries by event or exposure to substances, slip, trips, falls, violence. OB contacts, object contacts, other. Causes of fatal injuries by transportation incidents, exposure to substances, falls, object contacts, violence, and other. Fatal injuries. Same contact information we saw in the other room here where the save point is. Make sure that the rooftop door is always locked. We'll eventually get to that rooftop. Go meet our triangle-shaped friend. Fire emergency evacuation. Yeah, this we've seen in some other spots. I love the shotgun safety rules. We saw that last time. Last stream. Surprisingly was rendered even when we were still outside the building. This asset has been flipped horizontally. Fire alarm control panel inside. Another fire alarm control panel. Boots. A box. Projects. Something G through L. Bloober team's working on something codenamed Project G. Was one of their publicly released internal documents. I don't know if it was like an intentional public release or if that was a leak. But those things, big list of all of the projects that Bloober has in the works for the next several years. And they're all code-named. For example, Project C, which we now know is Chronos the New Dawn, a new game by Bloober Team. But they also had like Project G, Project H, Project L, a bunch of things with other studios and publishers, so not even just Konami related things. Effective immediately for Visitores. That same one is posted a lot throughout Brookhaven. Please keep the noise down. Same payphone asset we've seen around. Statues, these busts that we see around. Interesting artwork on display for hospital. Blue area, staircase, elevator, lockers room, lounge, restroom, treatment room, nurse's station, patient's room, director's office. Functional map for Brookhaven. First floor, green area, staircase, elevators, restrooms, pharmacy, day room, pool, cafeteria, reception and security room. It is the layout of Brookhaven, Remake Brookhaven. Got a big thing here of hospital maps. Which I will take. Same brochures and things that we've seen in the pharmacy and some other places around town. I like the Your Health, Our Care, Alchemilla Hospital brochure. It's got the little Silent Hill 1 map there. Silent Hill 1 ambulance. Central Silent Hill, Kuntz Street. So we've got the other flyer referencing the sanitarium and Origins. We've got these brochures referencing Alchemilla. Just the other hospitals and things from the other games. Sanitary code. Easy manual of the social health operator. Medication safety for all ages. Drug facts. Paracetamol. Pharmacy and drug. Restroom, lobby, exam room. Pool, pharmacy, and doctor's lounge. I'm destroying all of the mirrors because we did find a painting hidden behind a mirror in the apartments. But just in case there's any other hidden Easter eggs and things like that. Some nasty looking toilet paper. Alchemilla, old and out of fashion, so 1999, paid for by Brookhaven gang. No, they're both necessary. Brookhaven is supposed to be the mental facility. Alchemilla is where you would go for like your primary care. And then the sanitarium in Origins, where they send people like Helen Grady, Travis Grady's mother, who filled her home with gas from the stove to try to kill Travis because she thought there was a demon in him. Stories, just all the old medical photos. The alcohol, don't let alcohol shatter your life posters. Same things we've seen in some other areas. It's actually kind of surprising how many of these assets we started seeing way before Brookhaven. Let's see if there's like a visible label or anything. These jars and vials. There is, but it's not something that can be read easily. Bedpan. Detoxidine, we've already seen that. Can't go into the inner ward yet. Except if we really want to, we can just clip right through and look at whatever we want. Try not to do that too many times, because sometimes the game doesn't like it and threatens to crash. The key already rendered in here? It is! Even long before we get to the pool area, we've already got the drain with the green ooze around it, just like SH2 original, and the key with the keychain shaped like an ear. Which I think is a Blue Velvet reference. Where the main character in Blue Velvet, the story sort of starts with him going on a walk and finding a human ear out in a field. It ultimately gets him interested and wrapped up in a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. Wonderful David Lynch film, Blue Velvet. And also fairly influential to some aspects of Silent Hill, specifically Silent Hill 2. They even reference Blue Velvet in the remake with an alcohol brand called Red Velvet. Medical records. Let's keep noise down. The anxiety posters. See, these are those like eye posters that we've been seeing around. Some are more distorted than others. Anger, in control, fear, Raxium. Seen those around the town in some other spots. Same computer model that we saw in the nurse's station. Okay, CU schedule. Time in, patient, surgeon, anesthesia, and nurse, RN. Registered nurse. We'll check out a lot of these areas a little more closely. Once we're, like, supposed to be there. Said I don't want to clip through and accidentally sequence break, like soft lock the game. If possible, I'd like to try and avoid that. Although it is fun sometimes seeing how the sequence break will be handled by the game. We did that with the Saul Street apartments and kind of did them in reverse order, starting from the roof and working our way down. Meal times. Breakfast at 8 a.m., lunch at 12 p.m., dinner at 6:30 p.m. Guests are allowed to use the canteen in the visiting hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Guests pay $3 for breakfast, $5 for lunch, and $10 for dinner. You pay $10 for hospital food. You are getting ripped off. Oh yeah, this is actually kind of interesting because once this all changes over to the other world, these blackboards, what's written on them will change to a creepier message. 5 meals for celiac disease, 7 lactose intolerant, running low on potatoes and rice. Patient broke a whole cart of dinner plates, need to stock up. Monday, breakfast, oatmeal with fruit. Lunch, baked beans, sausage, eggs, side of salad. Dinner, pork cutlets, potatoes, grilled vegetables. As said, we'll look a little closer at some of this once we get around to that area. Wheelchair. Gotta have a wheelchair. It's obligatory, mandatory wheelchair in a Silent Hill game. It's interesting how that kind of wound up becoming a bit of recognizable imagery for the series. Like Silent Hill 1, it made sense. Alessa was wheelchair bound. So wheelchair imagery is all over Silent Hill 1. After Alessa was burned, the only way to move her around was either on a gurney or with a wheelchair. You see Alessa's actual body in a wheelchair at the very end of Silent Hill 1. And it's just kind of become a thing for the whole series. Gotta have creepy wheelchairs. Brookhaven, circa 1920. I like that model. It's a little bit closer to the Silent Hill 2 OG Brookhaven. There definitely is a neat detail here. And I can't remember. I think this picture changes. It might be once we are in the other world. But we've got this picture, and it's like a double exposure of Brookhaven Hospital with a bunch of the nurses and staff sitting out front. But this changes to a variation where you actually see Mary standing up there by the doors. Again, I think it's either after the Laura encounter or after the Otherworld switch. So we'll have to come back and check a lot of these things again as we progress through the hospital to see what kind of things change. This one does not open. And on the other side... Oh, yeah, this image, this is another one of those actual historical medical photos that's public domain. And it's been edited. Normally you can see the patient's face in the original, and they photoshopped this big, like, metal cone around their head. And normally you can see, like, the nurse's face. They've edited equipment and stuff to be here, sort of blocking it and obscured the face. Same for this person standing back here. But all these real photos, Bloober team sourced and edited. I like that kind of stuff. It does give it an air of sort of authenticity. Using real historical, vintage medical photos and imagery. Heather in the wheelchair is iconic. Not that Heather was in a wheelchair. Heather herself was not in a wheelchair, no. There were promotional images for Silent Hill 3 that showed her in a wheelchair being pushed by a nurse that were done by Masahiro Ito. But it's not meant, like, to represent Heather herself. It's meant to represent Alessa. That aspect of Heather, that she was Alessa. But Heather herself was never in a wheelchair. This is one of the coolest little details here. So, person looking out the window, James looking out the window, essentially, and a poster telling him to remember. So his subconscious is projecting these things into reality. And if you read it, what's actually on the poster here: if you experience poor appetite or significant weight loss, insomnia or hypersomnia, loss of interest or pleasure in usual activities, feelings of worthlessness or guilt, specifically guilt, diminished abilities to think or concentrate, contact your healthcare provider immediately. Now, you can examine this, and if you examine it and then read it, the text that comes up omits the word guilt. One of the main things that James is blocking out as part of his delusion. The guilt of having killed Mary. He doesn't even register the word when he reads the poster. Like, it's there. It's clearly there, but James reading it is not registering that it exists because that is part of what he's blocking out. It's a great little detail. Let's see, we should be able to see Laura. Here she is. Ooh. If she has any animations or anything here. Nope. Just her eyes blinking. The rest of her model is like completely stationary, but for some reason her eyes are already animated. She's enamored with the wall. She's just admiring her work. So in the apartments where we first see Laura, we find rabbit drawings. She's been going around drawing these pictures of bunnies that represent her and Mary. So she's got drawings of the bunnies like together and happy, and then she's got a picture where the bunnies are separated with like a river in between them, and the bunnies look sad, representing like Mary going away, Laura being sad at the separation, because remember, she's here in Silent Hill looking for her friend Mary as well. But these drawings that she's been doing are kind of telling things from her perspective. And now that she's encountered James, and Laura's perception of James is entirely painted by Mary. And when Mary was in the hospital, when she knew Laura, Mary, as her condition worsened, sort of lashed out at James a lot. She talked bad about James a lot. And it's what drove James away, caused him to stop visiting so much, and created a very serious divide between the two. So Laura, in her drawings, she doesn't like James. So now she's depicting James as this wolf. And towards the end of the game, when she starts to like kind of grow, like James starts to grow on her a bit, and she kind of starts feeling a little bit more friendly about him, she eventually draws the dog or the wolf as being kind of like happy, along with the bunny. The drawings are great. Did they show up in any form in the original? No. Laura did drawings in the original, but they were not this related to like her perspective or the story or anything like that. She drew teddy bears and cats and things like that. She drew a picture of the cat in the cafe at the hotel, like on the window and stuff like that. So Laura likes drawing. That was something that she did in the original, but Bloober Team went out of their way to make the drawings more specific and actually mean something. Like we're seeing little hints of the story from Laura's perspective, how she perceives herself, how she perceives Mary, how she perceives James, and depicts them in her drawings. Also, butterfly, drawing of the butterfly. And the flower. So the two main recurring motifs visually that we've seen a lot throughout this game are flowers and floral patterns representing Mary and butterflies representing Maria. Now Laura herself is not aware of Maria. She doesn't see her, she doesn't interact with her. because Maria is a manifestation. But I like the idea of those key recurring motifs kind of being part of her drawing as well. Go through here before we go interact with Laura. Let's see if they've got all the things in the drawers already. Who's to say Laura isn't having manifestations of her own? Things that she learns that are coming from the town, just the same as James, but we never see what she sees. So, developers have commented on that, like Masahiro Ito has commented on that. Laura herself is still experiencing the fog world and the other world. She just doesn't perceive manifestations. She doesn't see creatures. Now, environments that are manifested, she still sees and perceives and interacts with. So, for example, the hotel itself. When we get to Lakeview Hotel, that hotel is burned down. Like, it is completely fucked up by fire and water damage and age. James perceives it as being normal when he first goes there, because that's part of his delusion. But we also see Laura running around the hotel and interacting with James as though, like, she can still get around it, even though it would be burned down. So she's still experiencing like a not real version of the hotel, which means she's probably still experiencing fog world or other world versions, delusional versions of the environments that she's in. But people like manifested people like Maria, or manifested creatures, any of the monsters or Pyramid Head, she doesn't see any of that. Elevator doesn't work. We also kind of get some foreshadowing with the elevators as we go through Brookhaven, as Maria is going to meet her first death at the hands of Pyramid Head in a sequence with an elevator. So we start getting little bits of foreshadowing towards that. Hear like a loud noise. Maria even comments on it. Again, Maria sort of is on edge the whole time as we go through Brookhaven. To some degree, kind of showing that she's like aware of what's going to happen to her here. Now, how you interpret that, entirely up to you. If you're a fan of the loop theory, a lot of fans suggest like, oh, she's somewhat subconsciously recalling previous loops, and the original game being a previous loop that she just remembers that she dies here. So she starts reacting to it more and more. She's hesitant to go down the stairs where you encounter Pyramid Head, and She's just a little bit more wary of what's going on around the hospital. But in terms of that, she's also just a manifestation. She is kind of part of the town. She's part of the delusion. So, on that regard, even with the original, she kind of has this knowledge more than what she would have, like, naturally. She knows a bit more about what's going on. She's self aware. She knows that James killed Mary. She knows about Mary, loving Laura like her own daughter. She shares those feelings. Those are all details given to us in the original Born from a Wish sub-scenario. Laura might have had bad memories of hospitals too, considering that's where they met. True, we never really get those details either. Of why Laura was in the hospital, how exactly she first met Mary. We know that they became close friends through the hospital. But yeah, even in the original game, the developers were always very ambiguous about that aspect. They, like, people like Ito confirmed that Laura is intended to be a real living person. She's not manifested. She's not some aspect of James or Mary's subconscious. She's not representative of the innocence or the child that they couldn't have. She's meant to be a real little girl that, was an orphan. She was in the hospital. She became friends with Mary. So much so to the point where Mary wanted to adopt her, like, loved her. But why she was in that hospital, if she was, like, also a terminal patient, those kind of things, we don't know. There's tons of fan speculation on it, but no specific or official details. Combination for the keys locker is 2, 8, the total number of nurses in the lobby photo. Oh, they simplify this. This is I think this is my first playthrough on the easy riddles. I'm still trying out all the different combat levels and riddle levels as I do each of these playthroughs. Interesting to see how they change that note. Really simplify that. They just give you 2 of the digits and tell you to look at 1 of the photos, as opposed to looking at certain things in 3 of the photos to get those numbers. Again, more of these authentic vintage medical hospital photos that Bloober Team just sort of edited out. Faces and obscured certain aspects of them. Maria getting used to me breaking things. Oh, man, excuse me. God. Medicine's got me feeling nauseous. I'm having my own medical issues over here. Crumpler International. Now you want to do a second playthrough with the Japanese dub? I honestly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's very interesting. That looks like an actual painting. See if I can find this. what the source image is. It's none of those. Painting is a mood. Let's see if I can get a little bit more more of a close look at it. Again, this is interesting details considering your default camera view, you can barely even tell that that painting is there. Painting is Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare. Thank you, Girl and Geese. A Nightmare. Ah, it sure is. Depicts a woman in the throes of a demonic nightmare. The woman lies in a disturbing pose with an ape-like incubus, or Mara, crouched on her chest. A horse, a nightmare, peeks from behind the drapes. Considered an icon of romanticism and a defining image of Gothic horror. Oh yeah, there's the nightmare and the incubus. Your sleep paralysis demons. Yeah, again, Bloober Team very good at picking thematic, creepy artwork throughout history. They did a lot of this with Layers of Fear, but it's nice to see it incorporated into Silent Hill 2 Remake as well. Yeah, interesting painting, especially for something that's just sort of like tucked back here in a corner that you would not really be able to see just playing normally. That's what this playthrough is all about. Trying to see all these little hidden details that you wouldn't even normally pick up on in a default camera. There's our shotgun ammunition. We've been picking up the Penguin handgun bullets, and that is the same as the original Silent Hill 2, where you had different birds on each of the different ammo types, kind of showing what they were. Now we have the Crow high velocity buckshot 12 gauge performance ammunition. 12 gauge, 2 3/4 length, 1,275 velocity FPS, 12 pellets, 0 BK buckshot. Proudly loaded in the USA by American workers. 100% performance guarantee. Manufactured to exacting tolerances for smooth feeding in today's pump action and auto loading shotguns. Performance you can count on with every shot. Warning, keep out of reach of children. America. Same specifications. I love all the details on the box, the wrinkled cardboard, and Very detailed. Can you see James with his camera? Has he tried looking inside his head for weird eyes? We've done a lot of looking at the character models themselves throughout this playthrough. Absolutely. You can go inside and look at his tongue and eyes and everything like that. There's a lot of detail to it. Like, there's red veins and stuff in his eyes. If I can actually get it where you can see it. They're highly detailed. Yeah, there you go. You can see like the little veins, little tiny veins and things in the eyeballs. The eyes themselves are reflective and will reflect the environments. And we've been looking specifically at the character models as the game progresses because they change throughout the game. So, for example, when you go into the Saul Street apartments, there is a door with this like black ooze on it. And if you interact with that door, James keeps that black ooze on his hand for like a good chunk of the game, pretty much all the way up until you interact with the toilet in the Blue Creek apartments. And after you interact with the toilet in Blue Creek apartments, you can see his jacket, the arm that he sticks into that toilet becomes like dirty and dingy and sort of like the material looks wet, like it's absorbed moisture from it that stayed there. His fingernails get dirty. So even though like a lot of the stuff on his hands after reaching in the toilet goes away fairly quick, his fingernails at the very start of the game are clean. And after interacting with that stuff, you can see he's got dirt under the nails, and that progressively gets dirtier and dirtier. You can see his other hand still has the clean nails. It's just dirt under the hand that went in the toilet for now. But then towards the end of the game, you see like a lot of noticeable changes in the character model. The bags under his eyes are much more defined. His stubble is grown out more. His face looks more gaunt. His hands are dirty. His clothes are dirty. So we do see like progressive changes to the character model as the game goes on. Really, really great details. Cement bags, stuff that we've seen in some other parts of the game. Areas, trying to look at all these little bottles and labels. We found an Easter egg on a calorie nutrition label on the ice cream bucket that Eddie was eating from last time. So sometimes there are very specific Easter eggs on the most mundane things you wouldn't even think of. So that's why I'm taking my time and trying to look at all of this fine print. Because, like, the calorie label on the ice cream bucket that Eddie's eating from specifically mentions, like, gutless fatso, which is a line from the original game referring to Eddie. So, yeah, that's why I'm really trying to take my time and look at all these labels and all this fine print text and things like that on all the assets. Because Bloober Team hid a lot of crazy specific details in things. Maria can get in here now. Try shooting some of these paintings and things on the wall, see if they break or change. Sometimes they do. I also want to clip into the elevator. Okay. No floor rendered. Low poly version of the interior is rendered. This is what I was curious about. If the other floors are actually there. Sort of. Not completely. I think that's just about everything down this little corridor. Let's go ahead and go see Laura, but first, I want to zoom this camera out so that we get a little bit different perspective for this cutscene.
Laura, 待て。
大丈夫。ぶったりしないから。
くそ。
どうして逃げるのかしら。
私のことを嫌ってるのさ。
どうして？
それはわからない。
わからない。And it automatically has you looking at Laura's drawing after the cutscene. Love how Maria raises her arm when you shine the flashlight in her face. Yeah, eventually she will comment on it. There it is. Like, gets annoyed, asks if you're trying to blind her. But yeah, Laura's drawing butterflies, flowers, bunnies, and the wolf. We have James, Laura, Maria, and Mary. All these recurring visual motifs for each of the characters. Door is closed. At this point, Laura's model is probably unloaded. No longer anywhere around here. Sometimes it's worth looking around and checking, because a lot of times with games, it's less optimized. There's the bear and the shotgun. It's less optimized to just like completely unload and then reload a character model. So for a lot of games, when a character model is not being used, what they'll do is they'll just sort of teleport them out of bounds to a character or to a location where the player would never be able to access it or see it. So sometimes it's kind of worth looking around everything. You can see the first floor, now that we're on the second floor. Stuff down here is like unloaded. But yeah, sometimes it can be interesting clipping out of bounds, and never know, might find one of the places where the character model was moved to after she quote-unquote disappears or runs off. You can actually, as a really great example of what I'm talking about, in the original Silent Hill, in Silent Hill 1, they do a similar thing in the very beginning. So Harry Mason goes chasing after Cheryl, and Cheryl runs off into the fog. And no matter how much you try to run after her, you're not able to catch up to her. Well, if you break the game in a specific way, if you open up your menu, normally if you try to go the opposite direction that Cheryl ran, you'll get some text that pops up and says, you know, I need to go after Cheryl, and it automatically stops you and turns you around. But if you open up your inventory, at the very moment that that text pops up, you can cancel it so it doesn't stop you, and it lets Harry run around the town in places he's not supposed to be able to go yet. And if you do that, you can actually find Cheryl's model just like standing at a nearby intersection, because they didn't anticipate the player to be able to see that part of the town. And rather than just completely unload her model, they just teleport it elsewhere. So you can go and find Cheryl out of bounds, just hanging out in the street. So the same thing might be happening here, where Laura's model is just somewhere out of bounds. But who knows? It's a lot of out of bounds to check. They do mean a lot. Let's see, has this changed yet? I don't think it's until later. Yeah. So, we found our memo. 2-8 number of nurses. Oh, 7.
中に鍵があるようだ。けど番号がわからない。
探しましょう。どこかにメモがあるかも。
So if you examine this, you get that little bit of dialogue. James kind of talking out loud, talking to Maria, I guess, but also hinting to the player what needs to be done. And if you look at the photo again, Maria will comment if you're looking.
あなた、写真を見て何か探してるの？
Yeah, if you're looking for something specific in the photo, if you go back and check it to count how many nurses there are. Just little hints to show the player that they're solving this puzzle.
?2 階の？
地下のだ。
ああ、そうなのね。
I do like a lot of Maria's commentary, and I feel like they kept it to a decent level. It's one of those things where if you have her talk too much and if you have James talk too much, it breaks a lot of the tension and it kind of ruins a little bit of the atmosphere of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to explore, because you want to see all that stuff. At least for me, I want to see all of that stuff myself and figure all those things out for myself. I don't like it when you've got the characters who talk out loud constantly. Silent Hill Downpour is really bad about it. It's one of the things that annoys me in Downpour, where Murphy is just constantly saying everything out loud. This must be the ticket machine. I wonder if this'll, blah, blah, blah. Like, everything he has to comment on, like he's hinting towards the player about every little step of the way. This keeps it a little less involved, and I like that you get aspects of the characters' personalities from it. Maria is like, oh, second floor, like, hopefully we can go after Laura. She's like hopeful that the key will let them chase after Laura, because Maria cares about Laura. She has Mary's memories, and Mary loved Laura. Then James tells her it's for the basement. And she's like, ugh, of course. Like, of course we have to go to the creepy hospital basement. Good detail. Also, fancy finger. Let's look at this animated, because we haven't actually done that yet. Yeah. In these little moments where you pick up a key item, James, because your default camera view is zoomed in on the item, James's model, you're not supposed to see the rest of it, so he's kind of just hitting a pose. He's actually like moving too. Sort of wobbles back and forth. And for some reason, when you pick up certain items, mainly keys, we've noticed, he does this fancy finger. Again, wonderful detail on all of these little assets and props. The scuff marks, the oxidization of the metal. Little bits of rust where the teeth on the key are like worn into grooves. Super detailed. We looked at all this, right? Notes for nurses, care of instruments, materials, clinic routines, bronchoscopic clinic. Yeah. Wait. A nurse photo. The face sort of blocked out.
This hospital is really sad. 他の場所よりもずっとね。
Maria specifically commenting that the area feels more empty. Brookhaven feels more empty to her compared to everywhere else that we've been so far. Again, I feel like that's part of her character somewhat knowing, at least on a subconscious level, that she kind of meets her end here. Picture of a person in like religious robes. Cross visible in the background. Blanche Devereaux from the Golden Girls. I'm not sure who some of these are supposed to be. Again, these might be actual photos, like vintage photos that they've just scanned in and used. Ron's 20% off, 2 days, February 17th and 18th. Same one over there. Will you aid the fight for children? I'll fight any children you send my way. Electrocardiogram. Request report. Rapport. ECG. I had one of those done when I went to the emergency room back in March. Had a panic attack so severe my whole body was shaking, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk. The left side of my body went numb. They did an ECG to check my heart. Make sure I wasn't having a heart attack or a stroke. Notes of nurses. Developer's dog. I assume all these photos of dogs and cats and stuff are just developers. First person Silent Hill 2? No, completely free cam. Not just first person. Completely cam hacked. We can zoom in and zoom out and go through walls and do whatever we want. Checking out all the details in the environment, character models, everything. This game's got a lot of very specific Easter eggs and details that you can't see with the normal camera, and we are really taking our time going through and looking for everything. Welcome. Remote mode, tape select, audio dub, memory reset. It's like audio mixer controls. Wish I was here in the beginning. Well, this is day 11 of an ongoing series. So if you want to catch up on it, it's all on my YouTube, everything up to this point. But it's going to take us like weeks to get through the entire game because I'm spending hours literally doing this, looking at all the text, looking at every little detail in the entire game, going out of bounds, everything I can think of. We're 11 days in, and I'm only at Brookhaven today. So yeah, it's this is a long, ongoing playthrough. You've got a lot to catch up on. But we've found some very interesting stuff, some really cool details, really neat Easter eggs, references to other Silent Hill games. Just very, very cool stuff. There's an amazing amount of detail in this game. 0.9% sodium chloride injection. And yeah, those links in chat that Ancient Oleander just posted, The first one is my main YouTube channel, which has the edited down versions from the streams. And the second one is the archive VODs, which has the full raw stream archives for everything we've done so far. Followed a long time ago for Silent Hill analysis? Probably. I'm still doing it. I've been doing this on Twitch for a little over 10 years. So it may have been quite a long time ago, but welcome back, Q-Dog. Silent Hill has a way of always pulling you back in, doesn't it? Our basement map. Oh. Foreshadowing there. Maria running over to the elevator that's partially open. Very similar to how she winds up dying at the end of Brookhaven, with James in the elevator, Maria trying to get here, frantically hitting the button, James trying to force the doors open. Great little foreshadowing moment there.
ダメ。動かない。
Got our fuse box, switches, pump, alarm, heater, lights, well, wash. This room here. Let's clip in here. Because why not? How do you normally access this room? Does a monster pop out of here and open this door at some point? Usually that's the case with these types of rooms, where there's no other entrance or exits. Three Dog? Nice, Q-Dog. Three Dog is a good friend of mine. Does wonderful analysis of Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid. That may have been how you originally found my channel, was through Three Dog. I've actually had Three Dog join me many years ago for a Silent Hill 2 playthrough, where we were discussing a lot of stuff together. We'll have to do something like that again sometime. In very good company. You are welcome, brother. Any fellow brothers from Three Dog, you are most welcome here. All these tanks and valves. Almost feels like they should be a puzzle in themselves. Spider webs and stuff in the corners. Dynamo tanks. Power system. Switches, wires. See, like this, I feel like these assets, especially because of how detailed they are, I almost feel like they could have been used for a puzzle or something. But just environment detail. Mebeeb? Meabeeab? Or are those not A's? Is that the Cyrillic character? Because we've seen Russian used on one of the assets, one of the junk buses in the town. Just kind of randomly.
それって動かせる？エレベーターが使えるようになるかも。
Emergency fuel reserve in storage room. Oh. There goes the radio. Just for that moment. See the mannequin there? But there's actually a few mannequins in this part. This little goober over here. Crouching in the corners.
up!
Step onto the scale with your weight evenly distributed on both feet. Stand on the scales. I would if I could find out canonically how much does James weigh. I mean, I guess we can clip onto it. There. Stood on the scales. Didn't work. Box is in the way. Same breaker, fuse breaker, electrical breaker, whatever. Electricity box with switches. Nothing rendered. Nothing rendered. Those lighting panels out there, though. Mannequin there. Oletma. Serial number, capacity, voltage, wattage, max temperature, max pressure. Read and follow all installation, operation, and maintenance instructions. Ensure proper electrical connections and grounding to prevent electrical. Periodically inspect for leaks, corrosion, and signs of wear. Promptly keep the area around water heater clear and free from combustible. Only qualified personnel should perform installation, maintenance, and manufacturer. Contact information: 123 Maple Street, Springfield, Illinois, 62701, United States, with a 555-1234 fake phone number. Although heatforgetechnologies.com, this was actually discovered to be an Easter egg. So let me see if it's actually still working. Heatforge Technologies. .com. Yeah, so if you go to this website, it actually shows you a screenshot of this. It shows you heatforgetechnologies.com. You can try it on your own browser. It shows you a screenshot of what we're looking at right now. And furthermore, I'm pretty sure, yeah, you see Mira, you can click. What's the QR code? Yeah, QR code. Do this with my phone real quick. Got kind of a shitty phone when it comes to QR codes. A.O. Smith. Adveco hot water specialists, commercial hot water specialists, plant room-based hot water applications for commercial scale projects, air source heat pumps. Leisure offices, our latest news. Is this... They made fake websites. And like a whole crazy AR augmented reality type of thing. Like these links and QR codes and stuff actually work, and it's stuff that Bloober Team set up. You can click and get Mira. So, again, the fact that Bloober Team included a lot of these Easter eggs, does it do anything else other than make noises when you click on Mira? I think that's it. I can't remember if there was anything more to it, but the fact that Bloober put this sort of stuff in the environment, they knew people were going to look at this sort of stuff and look at it up close with cam hacks and whatever, try to scan the QR code, try to visit the links, and they put stuff there for fans to find. So smart. So smart. Really cool thing to include as just a fun Easter egg type of element.
もう大丈夫。ひとまずは。
Yep. Yeah, scream at it, James. Does a QR code existing kind of continue to play into the timeless element? I think this is the definitive proof that fans shouldn't read into those types of things too literally. It's clearly something there from Bloober Team for fans to play around with, not like an indicator of something meant to be in-game, you know? Considered as part of the world or lore. That's stuff there for us. That's for people playing the game, for fans of the series looking at all these little details. Fire alarm. Red squares. Hey, what's up, Hirimi? Still going even after I got home from work? Yeah, I'm going a little bit longer today. At the start of the stream, I showed off a little preview of the Silent Hill 1 iceberg video that I've been editing and working on. So we kinda got into the game a little bit later than usual. So I'm trying to go a little bit longer tonight. Hope you're doing well, man. Gasoline can. Flammable. Danger, extremely flammable. Keep out of the reach of children. Harmful or fatal if swallowed. Vapors can explode Never use gasoline to start a fire. Always vent before use. Keep container closed. Emission control information. This container complies with U.S. EPA emissions regulations for portable fuel containers. The emissions warranty is valid for a minimum of 1 year from date of purchase. It's empty. James staring intently at the empty gas can. Little bits of blue tape on the handle. The like super rusted tank. Got our movable cart. It's a little funny how the recurring movable cart is like always a thing in this game in several instances. It never really changes like what it looks like. It's always the same kind of cart on wheels that you can climb on. Running low, bleach, white laundry detergent, starch, white sheets. The amount of bleach you use is getting ridiculous, and the sheets are not getting any whiter. I won't ask questions, just end it. Again, those notes that start off kind of normal, and then the last lines, you get weird phrasing like just end it. Like a actual grate. Vent and stuff here. Laundry chute. Due to huffing bleach. Again, I feel like James wanting to just end it, you know, that's part of his subconscious. That's what he came to the town to do. He originally he didn't get a letter, you know, the letter that is his excuse for being here gradually disappears over the course of the game. This is not real. It's part of his delusion. The real reason James came to the town, he's got Mary's body in the back seat of his car, which we clipped into the car, and you can see there's no body itself, but there's a blanket in the shape of a body. Something that was confirmed by Ito with the original game many years ago. So James came to the town to kill himself. The in-water ending was the first ending that was written for the story. It's not the canon ending. Even Ito himself has said that there is no canon ending for Silent Hill 2. But when the story was first being written, the in-water ending was like the original conclusion. And that was the idea behind James coming to the town in the first place. He killed Mary, put her body in the car, drove to the town with the intention of taking his own life. James's original actor, Guy Seehey, also said that was a concept the developers explained to him called Muri Shinju, which in the Japanese culture is the idea of murder-suicide between lovers or families with the intention of like reuniting in the afterlife. So a lot of these messages and imagery and different elements of things in the environment, like just end it, and little references like that towards suicide, that's all James's subconscious. It's all stuff that is being projected from his mind into reality. Just various bottles and things. I'm trying to check all these labels. This one just says safety and then has the alphabet on it. A lot of filler text. Same thing with this. Just random filler text on things. It's so weird how some assets have like lorem ipsum and the alphabet and just like really obvious random filler, and then other things have like very deliberate specific writing, Easter eggs, things like that as part of it. Yeah, we've seen these boxes of detergent before. All these things that say like stand clear, level. It's a common filler text that we've seen on other stuff. Shampoo. We've seen this in some of the bathrooms, in the apartments and stuff like that earlier in the game. Polish devs. So I believe that was like the Polish spelling for shampoo. Also, that looks like kanji. I wish I was more fluent with Japanese. There's a lot of kanji that I don't know. It was like hiragana or katakana or like kind of basic kanji. I might stand a chance to read it. But Japanese starts getting difficult beyond that point. A lot of kanji. A lot of stuff I can't read. Yeah, if anybody in chat, anybody in YouTube comments knows this kanji, feel free. Let me know.
大丈夫。すぐ戻るよ。
Don't worry, I'll be right back. See, where does she go?
すぐにね。
She just walks out here, waits for you to open the door. Good thing the mannequin isn't gonna get her. It's like a broken cart. Brookhaven Hospital map, plan of expand 1932. Foundation, concrete walls, brick and cement, roof covering, corrugated iron, cost $62,350,000. Stone front, all the Brookhaven renovations that need to be done. Reception office, hall. Porter's room, ground plan. Brookhaven Hospital, Carroll Street. Date. So it's June 22nd, 1886. This is always one of those things that's a little bit funny to me, because it's a Polish studio making a game set in the United States. And in the United States, we don't format our date that way. We put the month first, then the day, then the year. Because, you know, why put it in like a logical order? It's not how we do things. We don't got no 22 month. Just one of those little giveaways that it's a studio, you know, assets and stuff made by people not from the United States. If you've ever seen, it's that meme from Inglourious Bastards, where they order 3 drinks and hold up the wrong 3 fingers that gives away that they're American and not German. This is the giveaway. These things weren't made by Americans. Mail ward, exam room, doctor's room, consulting room, day room, pharmacy. Damn, this is like a proper blueprint and everything too. It's got the direction all the doors open, the degrees and everything, distances and measurements. This was something that I very briefly wanted to pursue when I was younger. I was in middle school and high school. I was like, I'm gonna be an architect. Oh, here's a cool reference. Hammer laying here on the thing has Old Boy carved into it. For those who don't know the movie Old Boy, and the hammer itself is very significant to that film. Definitely check out Old Boy. the original if you can. I've never seen the remake. They remade it in like 2013, or is that, yeah, 2013 they made like they remade it, but the old 2003 Korean like action thriller Old Boy, fucking great movie. Great movie. Wonderful little reference here. The white paint smudged on the handle. I wonder if someone on the dev team just really liked Old Boy. Just wanted to include a little reference to it. Paint cans, no bulbs inside. We gotta check all the cans in the game. Brookhaven Hospital, 1932. Wasn't there an Old Boy reference in the original Silent Hill 2? 2. Old Boy the original would have come out after, unless, was it based on like a book or something that's older than that? There's the Old Boy manga series. I'm searching. Because the original Silent Hill 2 was 2001. The manga was 96 to 98. And then it was adapted into film in 2003. So the movies are after the original Silent Hill 2. I don't think there is an Old Boy reference in the original Silent Hill 2. And if there was, it would have been like a manga reference, but no, as far as I'm aware, and I would say extremely knowledgeable when it comes to the original Silent Hill 2. We've done cam hacks and things like that for that game. I've done a shit ton of research on that game over the years. And just been a fan of it, playing it since 2001. A lot more than most fans, because I also stream and play it frequently over the last 10 years on Twitch, so I don't think there is an Old Boy reference in the OG. Noise created. Welcome back. Thank you so much for the 85 months. That's a lot of months. You want fries with that? He just left with months. Thank you so much, Noise. Appreciate all the love and support. Welcome back. Lead something battery. Connector volts. Max initial. Refaded text. No bulbs in the cans. all-purpose ultra lube. We found that in some of the mechanic shops and stuff around town as well. Is that the Texon star? The white circle with the red star? I think that's the Texon gas logo from the gas station in the original Silent Hill 2. Because they actually change it to be Octavius? Something in the remake. It's not the Texon anymore. F100 275, capacity 275 gallons. Fill up our fuel can. If you're going to give us the option to shake items, Bloober, you've already put so much care and detail into all these other things. We should hear it slosh. We should hear it slosh around in there. Me when I'm holding my gas can. Yep. This is usually how I look when I fill up my gas can. I've got one of these kind of typical red gas cans too. For my lawnmower, my weed eater. That's exactly how I pose with it. It's fine. I won't let them get you, Maria. Except for those times where I let them get you so that we could watch on the camera. Ow. I absolutely love the backflips that the mannequins do when they like dismount. That's got to be one of my favorite animations. The quadruple backflip. They just go flying off of James. Alright, and that loops back to the beginning. Done looking around the basement. Definitely the most interesting thing is the QR code. That little Easter egg with the website to go and visit and get your surprise Mira. Sugoi, yatta. Oh, that's when this room opens up normally. Okay. I was like, it's usually whenever there's a monster around that these little rooms open. This is another thing, the sort of weird way they number the floors in the elevator. This would not be typical for like American elevators. Apparently in some places they do -1, -2 for like underground floors in other parts of the world, but here it's usually like basement floor, or if there's like a parking garage, it's like garage floor. So it'll just be like B1 for basement 1, B2 for basement 2. Not like -1, -2. First floor is usually called ground floor. Yeah, fix your hair. Get some light in your eyes.
Maria.
Oh no, I'm dropping frames.
大丈夫か?
ごめんなさい。
Why? Why during cutscenes? Why during cool stuff?
いいんだ。どうしたんだ? 怪我でも?
大丈夫。
My internet is crapping out.
休んでればいい。
ええ。わかった。広いベッドだね。
ローラを探しに行く。すぐ戻ってくるよ。
First time it's lagged like this? Yeah, I've been pretty lucky with my internet being decent for the streams.
ねえ、教えて。
But,
メアリーが見つからなかったら。
yeah, we're getting
どう
really
する
shitty connection right now. I'm dropping a lot of frames.
それは考えてない。
Sorry, everyone. Of course, it's gotta happen during something interesting, too.
早く帰ってきてね。
Well, I'm just gonna get to a save point. Because it's about that time anyway. But yeah, my internet just took a nosedive. Sorry, everyone. I apologize for the quality. At the very least, I'm recording, so you can see all of this without the lag on YouTube, on the VOD. But yeah, I probably just need to call it here anyway.